our theme for today's discussion is Leading Legacies, Empowering Women in Succession Planning. And today we'll have this conversation really centered around talking about the importance of preparing our current and future leaders. It's so important, such an important part of continuing forward for our industry. So looking forward to that. And with that, I have also a couple of other announcements. I'd like to mention that this year is a big year for US Wind. We have a birthday this year, a special one, celebrating our 25th anniversary of being an organization supporting the nuclear industry. So I just first wanted to thank all of you for your support and your engagement. All of you, just within the work that you do day to day in your jobs, play a very important role in the mission for US Wind. And that really supports positioning us for a strong, bright future in the industry and really supporting the advancement of women. So thank you for that. A few other logistics. First, the session is being recorded. So all of the participants today and all of our membership will get a follow-up email in a week or so with a link to the session if you'd like to view it again or share it with a broader audience. And also, we will try to make some time for questions and answers today. So I'll direct you down just to the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's, a menu panel that you can hover over, and there's one little chiclet that is for Q&A. So if you have questions today that you'd like to ask, please use the question and answer module. And once you enter a question or others enter questions, you have the opportunity to like them. So if you see one in there that piques your interest, please like it. That's helpful to me to be able to see what the audience is most interested in. So now on to some introductions for our speakers. We have three fantastic leaders with us today. First, Carol Barajas. Carol's the Vice President of Nuclear Projects and subsequent license renewal working for Tennessee Valley Authority. And Carol also was the esteemed recipient of our US Wind Leadership Award in 2023. So if that doesn't speak for the commitment that Carol has offered to all of us in our industry, I'm not sure what else could. So welcome, Carol, and thank you for joining us today. Next up, we have Susan Korn. Susan is the Executive Vice President of Services for GE Hitachi Nuclear. And Susan also is one of our esteemed recipients of the US Wind Leadership Award. So similar props and recognition to Susan for the commitment that you've offered to us and the US Wind organization. And we welcome you and thank you for your time today. And then lastly, we have Kelvin Henderson. Kelvin's the Senior Vice President and Chief Nuclear Officer for Duke Energy. And Kelvin also provides service to US Wind. Kelvin serves on our Executive Advisory Committee as an industry leader, providing guidance for the leadership team for US Wind, and also supports the DEI leading groups for the US Wind in the industry. So Kelvin, welcome, and thank you also for joining us. All right, so we're going to jump right into some questions. And for the audience, as you have questions, we're going to go through a couple of scripted questions, but please enter your answers. And as we get a little bit further in, we'll pull those questions. So our first question, I'm going to start off with inviting Carol and Susan both to answer this question. So I mentioned US Wind is celebrating its 25th year anniversary this year. And the history of this organization and the support and value that it's been giving back to the industry, it really has evolved over time. I mean, I remember it. I started that 25 years ago here, and US Wind was just at its infancy. So I'd like to hear from you both. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with US Wind and what it was like 25 years ago versus what it is today? And Carol, I'll start with you.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. So first of all, you may have heard this story before, but I started attending, actually I remember being a brand new senior reactor operator as a unit supervisor at Dresden Nuclear Plant. And I got a call from another SRO at Braidwood. Her name is Kelly Root. And she said, hey, there's a conference for women in nuclear in St. Pete's Beach, Florida. And, I didn't even know WIN existed until, Kelly introduced me to WIN. And I remember, just, okay, fine, I'll go. And I went. And I was taken back by the number of women leaders there, women like me, some of them with, being in operations and other roles, that also felt a little bit, I would say, probably a little bit isolated. And I remember that's where I met, Donna Jacobs. She was really the first, I think, female plant manager at Wolf Creek. And she was really inspiring and provided really kind of the landscape of the possibilities for women in nuclear, along with a support system, meaning, making connections there with others that have the same struggles as you, and we could share. There's several individuals I connected with at that WIN conference that I still have connections with today. And I just thought when I remember arriving back at the site thinking there's a whole series of women that behind me, with me, alongside me, that can help me through some of these challenges. So it's been, really a part of my life from that time on.
And still giving. I mean, I could relate to all of that, and even just hearing the perspectives that you and Susan and others have been able to share with us. So still giving back. Thank you for that. And Susan, how about you? What are your thoughts?
So I am certainly old enough to have been in WIN 25 years ago, but I regretfully really didn't know about WIN in my early career. And I say regretfully because, like Carol, it has really changed the trajectory of my career with the folks that I have met. But I actively joined WIN probably in 2012. So I guess it is a while ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago, where I helped co-found the, at that time, Exelon Cantera WIN chapter. And then I joined the steering committee shortly thereafter that. And then in 2018, I actually became the first industry, meaning the first non-NEI chair for US WIN. And that was actually really an exciting time because the steering committee, we stepped back and, we wanted to reflect like what, the organization has accomplished so much on the shoulders of many amazing, amazing women. And, we still had, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, right? And so we were trying to figure out how we could make an impact, an impact in doing that at a different level. And I will tell you, though, since my 12 years, the organization has really, really matured in its offerings, right? Professional development programs, the toolboxes on the website, if you haven't used them. The highlight being, though, the national conference. In my opinion, it is one of the premier nuclear conferences from the quality, the diversity of the attendees, and the relevance of the agenda and all the high-powered speakers, including the presence and support by our industry top leaders. It is not just a women in nuclear conference, it is a nuclear conference. And I think that is something that has just really evolved over the last at least 12 years, but I'm assuming 25 years as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Susan. I mean, all of that, I appreciate it, especially being vice chair and hearing your perspective on the evolution, because it's continuing, right? Things are going to be changing in front of us, and it's important for us to stay relevant and really nimble to be able to continue to evolve and really meet the needs that the organization or membership have. So, and also just a nice mention to the conference. So for those of you who don't know, the conference, July 2024, Pittsburgh, hosted by Westinghouse. So mark your calendar.
If you haven't been to one, it is a great place to start your connection with WIN.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, some really, really great friendships and professional connections. All right, well, Susan, we're going to stick with you for the next question. And this is, kind of connected to something that you had a chance to be a part of. Your leadership, all of you, it's demonstrated in a variety of ways. And one way is by really getting actively involved in our organization's strategic initiatives. And the one that I use it as an example is NEXT, the Nuclear Executives of Tomorrow Leadership Development Program. And Susan, you were a part of creating the vision for NEXT and really standing it up and making it happen. And we're 5 years into it now, and we're just seeing this growth and build. Can you talk about your opinion or your perspective on the impact that these programs have in really shaping our culture, right? Really cultivating diversity of thought. And what do you think what advice would you give to organizational leaders on how to continue to extend the impact from those types of programs within their own organizations?
Sure. I just want to say, first of all, I'm so proud to have been a part of the founding group of the NEXT program. It has far exceeded, I think, anyone's expectations when we kicked off the idea back in 2019. We were looking to make, as part of US Win, how could we made a global impact? How do we make that I want to say smaller impact, a greater impact with a small group of women to really propel more women into the executive ranks, into our industry. And that's really how NEXT was born. In fact, nuclear has a very defined culture, right, that we've all been part of. And we know that we needed to make this program different than anything that has ever been given in the nuclear power industry, because something you can't get at INPO, something you couldn't get, back at your own plant. And we looked outside the industry and we found a woman, her name is Carla, who's the CEO of Intent Coaching. And if you've ever seen her or met her, she's like a force of energy like none other, and breaks the mold of leadership development in the nuclear industry. We had our reservations about being so bold, if you will, and bringing somebody who was so out there. But with the help of all the committees, we were able to find the right combination, and NEXT really has taken off. But what I've learned through my career and also helping with the NEXT program, and I really feel passionate about this. One, in order to attract, retain, and get the most out of our talented employees, we need to continue to foster a culture of diverse leadership. And that begins with having authentic leaders with diverse thoughts, opinions, experiences, and styles. Traditionally, the nuclear industry kind of has a stereotype of what makes a good leader in this industry. And I would challenge us to think that we need all types of leadership in the industry. Second, just developing oneself as an effective leader. It's an unending journey. It's not something you go to a training course for. You must be given space. You must be given permission to really develop yourself and the tools to make that journey effective. And then talked a little bit about the support of US Win, but having a support network who's been on this journey with you is so imperative to sustaining your performance and keeping your sanity at it, honestly. Things get tough, and it's nice to have a group of people, women, your cohort, whoever, to reach out to and to vent. So for me, those were 3 things that I've really learned in my career that I think played into the NEXT program. So, the NEXT program, we have typically 12 members in the cohort a year. It's not a huge number, but it's not insignificant. And the results have been very visible. The program's been extremely successful. However, think about how much faster we would get there if our respective companies offered a similar program to their upcoming leaders, and not solely focused on women, just diversity in general, all sorts of diversity that you think about. I just think that would be so, so powerful. And so I'm going to challenge you, all of you right now. Kelvin, are you listening? To take it back to your leadership. How do you start? How does your company start something like the NEXT program to really help evolve the leaders of the future into what we're looking for?
Are you taking over the moderation, Susan? You're asking the questions now. It was a rhetorical question for Kelvin. Yes. Certainly
will. Yes, it was a rhetorical question for Kelvin. He was listening, just letting you know.
Hey, yes.
Hey, but the thing is, I could answer it.
You can, and I'm going to give you the opportunity if you had something that you wanted to share.
No, I'll let Susan finish.
All right.
No, I'm done. I challenge just challenge all of us. We all can make change, every one of us. And, what is the culture that we're looking for? Let's make that happen, not just be on the side and maybe help our companies. You can have programs of different sizes. It doesn't have to be the next program, but there are different things you can do. And I think something has to be, it's not a one-time training. It's something that has to go on for a while to really ingrain in people.
Yeah. And I would just offer, for our audience too, sometimes you might not be in a position of leadership where you can have the authority or make a decision to say, yeah, we're going to stand up a program. But it's important for you to verbalize what you think you need is, right? Because sometimes we don't know what our employees need and we may not know what's lacking. So, certainly an avenue for you to advocate for yourself. When you see and hear about things that are out there, just ask for the support that you think you need and have the courage to do that if you think it's going to be something that's going to move you forward.
Hey, Rebecca, I'll just add, I think, we were talking about programs, but what we really want is the passion for critical feedback and development, and that we want our leaders to have that passion to a point where they, help a leader progress or be prepared for that next role, but also advocate for them. And sometimes I don't know that leaders understand what advocation means. So I think that's an opportunity for us and for the leaders that surround us.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for that, Carol.
Yeah, Carol, people get into mentoring interactions and they blur that with advocating. They're really two totally separate things. Mentoring is assisting with development. Advocating is working to put someone in the right position where they could potentially have an opportunity. But I think all too often we blur those two, efforts that we undertake.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
All right, you guys are picking up the theme, succession planning and development. So thank you for that. All right, so Carol, I'm gonna ask you to respond to the next question, and it's continuing on with career progression. So we know that that's evolving over time, right? Significant changes in what career progression looks like over the last decade or so, and we're seeing a lot more of people zigzagging versus this, vertical ascension kind of ladder model that existed for a while. Can you talk about lateral moves that you may have taken in your career and just where you see the value in that, why it's important for folks to consider lateral moves?
Absolutely. So first of all, let me say how important lateral moves are. And it's like anything in life, there is no straight line to success, right? No, whether it's within it's a career or professional or personal, there is no straight line. So I think the really importance of lateral moves, and especially those that may not be as expected to come your way, those lateral moves help broaden your experience as a leader, help give you a different perspective you might not have if you just went straight up the ladder. And I'll give you two perfect example. The first one was, when I worked for Duke Energy, I got a great opportunity to work outside of nuclear. It gave me just rich experience about how all the other business units within a utility work. I wouldn't have had that perspective without having done that role. So that was an opportunity I got. The opportunity was really something that I had not had in my succession planning. But when that opportunity came up, I took it. And even though I was, not sure that I was going to be successful, I knew that, I was going to get the help I need, and I would put, obviously learn a lot and form the right team to be successful. So that's one. The second one, and it came just recently in my career, my long career, I was given the opportunity to take a lateral move and go to Watts Bar to do the steam generator replacement. And I mean, I was licensed on a BWR, and I was like, I told our CNO, Tim, I said, Tim, you realize that I was not licensed on a PWR. He's like, that's not what we're looking for, right? We're not looking you to be the technical expert. But that was an opportunity that came to me, kind of not something I had, but I'll tell you what it did. Sometimes when we take lateral moves, what it does is, of course, it gives you a gain of experience, broadens your knowledge, gives you different perspective, but also it could be twofold. It could also put you in a position that you build credibility with a group or a specific site. And really that was one of the two benefits, was the credibility and the relationship I could build directly with the people at the site. And it really, really was, benefit not just to me, obviously, but to the station, and that building that credibility was very important, and building those relationships so that I could be more influential in the future, in my future roles. And it doesn't matter who you are. I think if you ask any of the leaders on this panel, they'll tell you that they took some lateral moves in their career and it had some benefits to them. So I would say, although, I think when I was younger, I'll just say when I was younger, I probably had a vision of, a straight line up a specific, ladder, but really that's not realistic to be a well-rounded leader. So I would say, we probably, if you get an opportunity, even if it's outside your wheelhouse, even if it's something you didn't expect, we really need to consider it. Obviously, someone sees, the talent that you are, or that you have, and will help you, maybe be prepared or prepare for that role. But I would definitely take a lateral move to broaden leadership experience.
Thanks for that, Carol. I can relate too. I just think about the places where I ended up in lateral moves, and when I turn around and just kind of look back and I see how far I had come. Just really, I share your sentiments. So thank you for sharing that.
I definitely think you learn more when you take something outside of your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to really stretch yourself. And really, from a leadership standpoint, you have to count on your leadership skills, because you're not the most knowledgeable person. So I echo everything Carol said. I think it's going to, really helps develop you in ways that you couldn't imagine.
Right. Thanks for that, Susan.
I guess I'll dogpile onto that. The best move of my career was a lateral move. And I truly believe that I wouldn't be in this position today if I hadn't taken that lateral move. Because what it forced me to do, and Carol touched on this, was to learn the business from a much broader perspective. And so it really shaped how, I thought and how I approached things. One of the best moves of my career.
Well, that's pretty astounding to hear you say. You'd think that move may not have enabled you getting to the position where you are today. So really impactful. And hopefully the audience is picking it up, right? Lateral moves are just so important for building the strength and, rounding the development. So thank you all for that. All right, Kelvin, we're coming to you next to talk a little bit about succession planning. And, I'll start out with just saying, lots of misperceptions about what building a succession plan actually takes. And there's variety, right? From company to company, leader to leader, industry to industry, in terms of what succession planning looks like. What advice would you give an early career woman in terms of knowing where to start, beginning planning? You don't usually have somebody walk in the door and say, oh, it's time to start succession planning. So if you had to think back to your 25 or 30-year-old self, what advice would you give to make sure that you were part of succession planning discussions, starting kind of at the right point in your career?
Yeah, and so Rebecca, you're dead on. I think if you go across, heck, I think even within our fleet, how we do succession planning is different. What's not different are the types of things that we talk about in succession planning. So the process, things of that nature might be different, but the things that we talk about. And so what I mean by that is you need to start with have some idea of what you want to do. And that's sort of hard for someone young in their career to say, okay, what's the position? But at least you can say, is it leadership or is it some other specialty niche within the business unit? And so you need to start with, well, what do you want to do with your career? And then it's important that you sit down with your leader and have some type of discussion on, this is a vision where I would like for my career to go. What are some of the types of things I should start focusing on? And who are the type of people I should start connecting with? The biggest thing would be visibility. When we get in succession plan meetings, and might sound bad, but it's somewhat true. Some of our decisions are made off of snapshots of what we see of leaders or individuals, not a continuing movie. We rely on others to give us that feedback. But then we only have snapshots. So the more you can give us snapshots by being visible, then we can turn those snapshots into more of a movie, if that makes sense. And so I think it's very, very important start with having somebody. I didn't do this in my career. I had no idea what I wanted to do. They said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I probably would have said, well, shift manager. So I've like 10 times exceeded what I thought I would do in my career. But hindsight, I look back, I wish I had thought about it a little more, because maybe there would have been some other development opportunities that I would have sought out, either through education, through experience, through mentoring, whatever you call it. I was fortunate enough that I had a pretty strong advocate that saw something in me and moved me along in my career. But you got to start with, well, what do you want to do? You just can't say, I want to be on a succession plan. Then the next question is, for what? I mean, what do you want to be on the succession plan for? And so I think you just got to have some idea of where you want to go in your career, and then how to start down that path with engaging your supervisors and others.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear you hit on visibility, because I can relate to that. I didn't really recognize, early on how important that is. And it's not about tooting your own horn. It's really about just giving people a view of what you're made of, what you're good at, maybe what you're not as good at. And it's not to play to your weaknesses. It's, really to help people understand how to build off the strengths. So, and I think women also, I'll be a little stereotypical here, but women also tend to shy away from that, right? Because there's a humbleness, there's a humility. And, a lot of times women think, I don't have time to do that. I'm busy, right? I got to be productive, and I don't have time to do that. I got to get home. I got to take care of my kids, my family, or whatever it is doing. So really good advice, I think. Susan, did you want to comment on this question? Do you have anything that you wanted to share?
Just a few things. Everything Kelvin said, I think, is really spot on. But I just want to reemphasize, just like when you do a major project, it all goes how the planning went, right? And I too, when I was young, I didn't think about like what my next move was necessarily. Things just happened, and in all fairness, they worked out for the most part. But really, I've had people say, "Well, I want a promotion. That's what I want." I'm like, well, I know what that means. What do you want to do? What do you like? So I think really sitting down and thinking about what your strengths are, what things you want to do in just like the next 2 to 4 years, what you want to learn, what experiences you want, know what those are so that you can articulate them. You might have a trajectory that one way, and you have some experience that it's like, wow, I didn't realize that I didn't like that at all. I don't want to go that direction. Or man, I never thought that I would really like to do this. And so you change your trajectory. So, be open, discovering new things. And, also I think just be curious, like talk to leaders, talk to those people with positions above you, learn about their career progression. People love to talk about themselves. They're honored when people ask them about those things. So, learn as much as you can. So, and ask them for advice. Like, what advice would you give me to do this? And then, I think we just harp on this, like, do not be afraid to promote your accomplishments. It's not bragging. It's, people, Kelvin said you go and you're looking for a snapshot. So if you're just doing a great job, don't assume that people all see that. You might need to showcase yourself a little bit and make sure that they do. Again, it's not bragging. You're, you want to impress and show off the value that you're bringing to the company.
Yeah, it's just stating your worth, right? And stating the value. So yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Susan. All right. We are going to move along a little bit, and Carol, I'm going to come back to you with this one and then invite Kelvin also to share his view. So for those of you on the call, if you haven't heard, US Win has a formal mentoring program that we execute called Grow. And it's a tailored mentee and mentor program. So Carol and Kelvin, I'd like to hear from you both. How has mentoring, either being a mentor or being a mentee, how has that influenced your career? And what do you think the benefits are? And do you have any mentoring hacks or tips that you would share that are just, nice little takeaways that the audience can take back with them?
I'll start by saying, I've been part of the Grow program since its inception. So even part of the pilot. So I'm very excited about that program. I think it has, it's resulting in a lot of benefits and relationship benefits between mentee, mentor, relationships. And hopefully it's got the results would be, that people are growing and learning about what they want to do and then helping grow leaders. So I think mentoring is really important. Early on in my career, I did not have a mentor. It wasn't until later I was director level that I had a mentor. And I'll just say the mentor-mentee relationship, I learned from my original mentor. It's one that is an honest and I would say confidential relationship. The mentor-mentee relationship, although some of your supervisor, maybe your supervisor manager can also mentor you, it's great to have a mentor outside of your line of responsibility. And it has to be somebody that you trust or that you can build a relationship with, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to share openly and honestly the challenges that you're having, and then talk through maybe some ways to address those. Also, maybe someone to give you direct and honest feedback about what you need to do to be a better leader. And I'll just say, so I've mentored quite a few people and I've been mentored, and that's kind of like the relationship I like about that mentoring session, or it's about a relationship. And it's it will give you also a different perspective, right? So what I like about the Grow program is you get a mentor or you have a mentee from a different utility. So now you're getting perspective outside of your immediate company, maybe give you some ideas on what you can do. And I think that the mentor, having a mentor is really important for growth. But I think that effectively I've leaned on mentors over the years to bounce things off of, to really uncover maybe some gaps or some blind spots I didn't see, but my mentor was able to tell me and help me through it with some solutions. So it's in order to grow, I feel it's really key to have some mentorship outside of your immediate supervisor. And I think it's all part of becoming a leader. The only other item I'll add is that every time I'm in a mentor-mentee relationship, I always learn new things, and I may not have all the answers, but with the two of us can work through some solutions and brainstorm some solutions, and it usually works out. But I love it because I learn new things.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I'm kind of chuckling a little bit because I'm at a offsite location, and I was able to connect with somebody that I mentor, and a little bit more technologically advanced than me, and like help me solve a problem in the midst of me trying to share things. So like, there's always something to learn. It's lucrative. Just a simple little example that was relevant for me today. All right, Kelvin, I'd like to hear a little bit about your thoughts on mentoring.
Yeah, so I obviously agree with everything that Carol said. And, I mentor either formal or informally, a lot of people, a lot. And so whenever I get in those interactions, the first thing, I want to be impactful. So I just don't want it to be an engagement. I want it to be an impactful engagement. And the reason why I think that way, I think about the handful of mentors that I've had over my career. I can think of one specific one that I'll never forget some of the advice that he gave me. And he gave me some simple things to remember. He said, don't change who you are. Treat people with the way you would want to be treated. Always look for opportunities to learn. When you need to send a tough message, send a tough message, but remember to go clean up the mess. And what he meant by that was, people in their careers are successful based on who they are. Now you'll learn and you'll think different along the way, but if you start modifying who you are, it's going to have an impact on how you lead. I guarantee you, anybody that know me when I was a mechanical supervisor to the position that I'm in now, they will say I haven't changed a bit, and I haven't, because I'm sure I've been successful because of who I am, because of my personality. And if you start adjusting that, people will see through it. And so, when I start mentoring folks, I said, look, the first thing you need to do is be true to yourself. You're going to go through development. You're going to learn things. You'll probably function a little different, but don't change who you are. Because if you do, then you're not the person that you really want to be. And so that's probably the one thing that I remember. I mean, since I got that feedback years ago, and I still live by it today. And so I just want to be impactful when I have a mentor-mentee relationships.
Thanks for that. And I loved the connection that you made to being your authentic self. And Susan kind of opened up with that early on. It is so important. And I think that's so at the heart of what we're trying to accomplish with creating an inclusive environment. So it has an impact on me, Kelvin, hearing somebody of your stature at the level of leadership that you are reinforce that being your authentic self is really the most important piece. You pick up the skills and you collect the experiences that get you the results, but you're not doing yourself any favors, or probably the people that you lead, if you're not being authentic. So really appreciate that. All right. Well, Kelvin, we're sticking with you for the next question. And this one is about seeing it to be it, which is, something that under historically underrepresented populations and groups talk about how important it is to be able to look to their leadership and see someone that they can relate to, that looks and behaves, or comes from a similar background, which kind of speaks to the authentic leader. So, when you think about that and you think about how you engage and do outreach and participate, how do you go about doing that so that you're really connecting with people outside of the company to kind of bring the talent in, so that people can believe this is a place where I want to work, this is a place where I want to be, this is a place where I'm really willing to stay. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can. And, I consider myself to some extent being in an underrepresented group, especially within nuclear. I mean, for those of you that, any history, I'm the third African-American CNO in the industry, and I can name the other two, and I'm actually friends with one of the two. And so, Rebecca, this is becoming harder and harder for us to figure out how do we entice people within the company, especially in underrepresented groups, to stay, and then how do we entice people to come? And the reason that it's harder is because the opportunities are becoming more and more limited based on all of these efficiency initiatives that all of our companies are employing. And so I personally find time and take time, to the dismay of my administrative assistant, that I spend time with a bunch of folks, either individually or as groups, and say, all right, let's talk about the company. Let's talk about what you value being a worker here at the company. Let's talk about the things that may be challenging you, and how do we overcome those challenges? Because you'll have challenges. Let's talk about how do we make work exciting again, but still responsible to our commitments. And because we are all so busy that we don't take the time to have those interactions. We here in Duke, we just moved into a new building here in Charlotte, and this is the first time that I've been on the floor with all the nuclear folks. And you can't imagine how many times I have these types of discussions in the break room. And it just resonates with people to hear me share with them, how I still find this business exciting. I still find it challenging. And how do I navigate all that? And how our future and their future could be bright, and their kids' future could be bright. You just got to have to tell them the story. Otherwise, what they'll see is just all the things that we're doing to drive efficiency, and then they'll equate that to limited opportunity. And so as a leader, I value just finding time just to talk to people, and maybe they still might decide not to stay or go on and do other things, but they'll make that decision based off of factual information, not filling in the blanks because no one's having that interaction with them.
Yeah, that's great. And, I had a few conversations today with employees that talked about the importance of leaders being accessible to people. So hearing your example of in the break room, right? I mean, every moment and you call them moments that matter, right? Where you're building trust with employees. And I'm sure from your perspective, learning what's on the employees' minds, right? Because you need to know that too. The business leaders need to understand that. So really just a kind of interesting collection of how important it is to make time to connect with people, which is really part of our charter at WIN. So it's a nice tie to what we're trying to accomplish. So Susan or Carol, do you want to comment on that? I know, a little bit off the script there, but we have a little bit of extra time. So I just invite you to, share an opinion if you have anything that kind of resonated with you based on what Kelvin said.
Yeah, I'll just say, first of all, I agree with Kelvin, and you mentioned it also, being accessible and having an open door policy I think is very key as a leader, and being visible. We talked about this, for many many decades about management by walking around, but it's really something that has to happen. You have to spend time with employees. You have leaders around you. They may filter information, but as a leader, you have to know what's going on. And in order to know what's going on at the deck plate, you need to be present. You need to be, make the time to go out in the field and speak to people to get the real story. So that, because I think, as probably like Kelvin, you're an executive, you may good information. Sometimes it's really important to get it, straight from where the challenges are, so you can help solve that problem. So I would say that's important to the organization.
And the big thing out of that, it makes folks feel valued. People just want to be heard. And so if people feel valued, they will stay with the company for the most part that they feel like they're being valued. And
Right.
when people leave, they're leaving companies where they feel their leaders or the company don't value who they are and what they contribute.
That's so true, Calvin. I know that part of the question was like, see it to believe it sort of thing. And it just triggered me to think early on in my career. And I suspect, as you get older, you become more confident in yourself. But I made one of my job decisions purely on the fact that the one place had women in leadership and the other place that I was looking at did not. It was offered less money, but I just was like, hey, I want to be at a place that there were people that like me that were in, leadership positions. So it just triggered me like, we need to be as leaders mindful that is a reality, that people make decisions based on that, whether they are aware of it or not. It just triggered me to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the compliment and that sends a message, right? And it's sometimes you don't even have the opportunity to explain why it is that way. Because people do what you do, what you mentioned, Susan. It is, you made a decision based on what you saw visibly to you.
Yep.
And
what was potentially possible for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, all three of you, for that. We have one question from the audience, and I'd like to take it since it's the only one that we have, and we'll squeeze it in the spirit of time here. And I'll make it a jump ball question. So if it resonates with any of you, just let me know. We'll go that way. And it kind of comes to some things that we talked about, right? Being our authentic self. So the question is, how do we stay true to our authentic selves when we sometimes get negative feedback about how our quirks can be perceived by senior management? And we might not have enough interaction with them, kind of, Kelvin, to what you were mentioning earlier around the touch points. So how do you do that when you have something that might be a quirky part of you that maybe is being judged, if you will, by limited touch points? Any advice that you all have to offer there?
Yeah, I'll start. So first of all, we're all humans and leaders, and we all have, things that we can work on. So, and to me, coming to work with my authentic self doesn't mean that, I come with all my flaws without trying to fix those flaws. So, to me, authentic self is, there's some things that and mannerisms I'm going to have and how I approach things. It's all part of my character. But and sometimes you could get some feedback that says, you're, asking questions the wrong way. And so it's not making it through to the right person. They're good questions, but they're not making it through the right person. So you have to recognize that changing or doing tweaks around certain things is not, changing your authenticity. It's about kind of polishing it and making it better. And really it's about you getting feedback and making those adjustments without changing your character. Character is very important. Usually that's aligned with, your values and how you come to work. But others, I mean, that's about what
I would also offer, I don't, whatever the quirk is, ask some questions about, what is the result of it, so you can understand what outcome you're trying to achieve, or what it makes people feel or how they're reacting, so that you can understand how to make those changes. Oh, I didn't realize when I did that, whatever, people put the barriers up, like, oh, I don't want to create that outcome, so how can I tweak myself? So I think it's important that you're asking some questions to understand how those, if you call them quirks, are adversely impacting your effectiveness as a leader.
Yeah, and Rebecca, I'll go back to a discussion we were having earlier around visibility. A quirkiness doesn't equal necessarily capability, right? And so I think visibility will help, leaders like myself see capability. And once you see capability, you see through quirkiness, because it's, that's coachable. I mean, you can coach that. I mean, capability is just, natural talent. And so I think it comes back to visibility.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, all three of you had a little bit of a different perspective, and I love that last piece, Kelvin. Right, the connecting kind of what Susan and Kelvin you both shared. Like the capability is the important thing, and the quirk you can keep it as long as you become self-aware of how it's impacting other people, and you make the time to connect with the leaders that can see through the quirks. Kelvin, to your point, it doesn't, you don't have to leave it behind as long as it's not, a fatal flaw that it really, really is detracting from results. All right, well, thank you for that. So we are at our last question, and I think we have probably just enough time to invite everybody to answer this question. And it's a really very kind of personal question, but connecting it back to our theme with leading legacies and empowering women in succession planning. And Kelvin, I'm going to start with you. And the question is, what's one thing when you think about legacies and empowering women or employees in succession planning, what's one thing that you would hope to accomplish to leave as part of your personal legacy as a leader in our industry?
Yeah, so what I would like to leave either, here with Duke or just my touch points with the industry is that we create, because the theme is succession plan, right? We create such a strong pipeline of female leaders that when we get into these succession discussions, they're so dang difficult because you have so many just top candidates to choose from. And, if I can get to the point where my succession plan that I'm like, I got to make a decision between these three strong female leaders, how do I make this decision? And we're not there yet. But I would say if we could get there, then I would feel that, I've done the best I could to get folks in a position where they have opportunities for higher level positions.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate that. And it gives me, personally something to look forward to just as a female leader being part of that. Really, I strive to get there in the point in time before I retire. So certainly appreciate your commitment and vision there. And next, I'll go to Carol. Same question. Your legacy. What are you hoping for in terms of your leadership contribution?
First of all, I totally agree with Kelvin. It would be great to have a lot more women in the pipeline for leadership roles. And I would say, in addition to that, just from looking forward, I'd like to see more women aspire to those roles. Sometimes we are the biggest critic of ourselves, or we're the person standing in our own way. And I see so many great, talented women out there that perhaps, I'll just say, maybe making excuses for not pursuing a greater role. And I understand totally about work-life balance, but I would say, that we need that more aspiring females to come up and, be part of succession planning, and that available pool, so that we can concentrate on them and develop them to that greater, to that other leadership or multiple leadership roles. But in order to do that, we need to have more females, willing, or at least feeling confident in themselves that they can do it. Like as I mentioned, sometimes we are our greatest critic and we don't feel ready for that next role. Maybe we're even offered that role, we're not ready. So I would say, part of the legacy is to make everybody understand that they have the capabilities, and that and with the right mentorship and leadership, they in a lot of cases are able to fill that role, that next role that's coming, and not be not be doubtful of our skills. And then I'll just add one more thing to that is as I mentioned earlier, you know, I think about character, competence, and commitment, and leaving a legacy of leaders that are committed to the people in this industry and having that diverse population of folks that are ready to take the helm.
That's fantastic. You drew me right in. I almost lost my facilitator role here, just thinking about, wow, how many times I've been nudged to take that next step, and how important it is when you get to the point where you just kind of, I don't know if it ever goes away, but you know, having that that encouragement is so important, and it's so much of what we do here in this network. So appreciate that thought. And then Susan, I'll let you kind of close us out here.
I'll take a little bit of a different twist. I certainly would love to see US Win never have to exist again because we're critical mass. But when I was thinking about this, one of my favorite books is The Butterfly Effect by Andy Andrews. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's a small book, but it's really powerful. And I was thinking, you know, when I eventually retire from this industry, I would like to hope that people think of me as a butterfly, right? I hope that the small interactions that I've had along the way with so many people have really made a difference in several women's careers, particularly, and that they have in turn magnified this impact, and that just continues to grow. So I want to remember it as a butterfly.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. And it resonates with me because I love that book. I have it sitting on my desk, and I actually share that book with people when I see them having the butterfly effect in the organization. So
I have 3 daughters, and I have bought them all the book. I'm like, this is what you should think about as you move forward in your life, how to be this butterfly.
Yeah. Real purpose-driven work. So thank you for that. Well, thank you, Susan, Carol, and Kelvin, for offering your time and really just sharing your wisdom. It's so amazing to me how every time I get a chance to connect with leaders like you, that you really just tear down, you know, some of the the barriers that can come along with having a high-ranking position, because you're people, and we're all together in this. So I just really want to thank you from on behalf of all of the US Win folks and the folks that are here today for your time and your attention, and even more importantly, your continued support. So we can always count on you to show up and to be part of the conversation, and that extends beyond this webinar in so many other ways. So I appreciate that. And then just in closing, I'd like, I hope everybody's enjoyed the programming today, but it's Women's History Month, and we're just in the first week. And I want to remind everybody that US Win, with the support of Atomic Allies, really does a fantastic job putting together a whole calendar of events for the entire month of March. So if you haven't seen what they are, you can find them out on the US Win website. Lots of wonderful activities and opportunities to engage and really just recognize, reflect, learn, and grow. And I encourage you to go be on the lookout for those. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. Thank you again, Susan, Carol, Kelvin. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Rebecca. Great job.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.